and I'm looking at this main camera, right?
You want it on the pod or you want it on you first?
Go you first.
Okay, so
For sure.
me. All right. What's going on, y'all? I know we've been gone for a little minute, but we back. You know, welcome to another episode of the InnerChild Podcast, where we have conversations about childhood passions and growth. I'm OD as always. I'm always with my boy JB. You know, today, obviously in good fashion, we got a special episode on the way. So today's guests are three remarkable young black men who embody purpose, discipline, and drive. From the Air Force to entrepreneurship, from community organizing to authorship, these brothers are walking proof of what it means to live with intention. They are co-authors of the brand new book, Live on Purpose, Mastering the Art of Living with Intention. Available now on Amazon, by the way, so go ahead and get that. And they're kicking off their book tour right here on the InnerChild Podcast. Let's clap it up for Jonathan Walls, Jamari Sharp, and Malik Hassan.
Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
it, dog.
For sure.
We're not going to hold the Air Force when I get you.
Yeah, it's an airport. That's crazy.
I mean, hey, technically, we is straight from the airport, you know.
Man, that's what's up, man. But now, for sure, man, welcome to the show, fellas, man. You know, we always, like I said on the pre-show call, like JB said on the pre-show call, it's always, a blessing to kind of just be able to have like real authentic conversations about real stuff. You know, we push nothing but positivity on the podcast. So, it's a real pleasure to, have you gentlemen on the show. But obviously, like opening segment, this is what we do. I'm a fashion guy. Nice jacket, by the way.
Thanks,
JB.
man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm a fashion guy, man. So we always got to open this segment. We call it drip check. You know what I'm saying? It's very dramatic. Post-editing, you're going to see the bombs dropping and everything. It goes crazy, right? I see y'all boys got it on. I ain't gonna lie.
They do. They got
y'all came through representing. So I'm gonna just give y'all time to just talk a little bit about y'all fit, the inspo, what drove y'all to wearing what y'all wore today.
Okay, man. I'll start it off, man.
Yeah.
I got me a Boohoo Man jacket, Boohoo Man tee, Boohoo Man pants. So I might need a little brand.
Okay.
That
might be the sponsor of the book.
Socks. No, not socks.
That's socks.
We got the white, all white G
Fazos. Hell yeah.
To top it off, but
I like that.
Man, that's me. Yeah. So right now, I went a little different. Every time I feel like when I come to New York, I gotta just do something a little different out the norm that I don't usually do. So I got, the straight beater on under the jean jacket from Madewell, a little bit of accessories, old school nugget ring on, bracelet. But then I got these pants. Actually, I think these pants is Fashion Nova. Little flares at the bottom. Y'all can't really see the boots like that, but Mark Nolan boots, like little Chelsea type boots with design on it. And then, of course, I got the BAM fitted on. BAM. Y'all see the back, we got the BAM too. So, do that all the way. Frame. So, just a little something. John, I talked to John earlier. He said he don't like it. I was teetering the line a little bit. But, it's all good. It's all good. Just the envelope.
Teetering the line is crazy. For me, man, so, I've checked out your previous episodes. So I knew about the drip check.
Okay, man.
I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I'm more of a plain Jane casual type guy.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we going to New York and we got the drip shit. I'm like, I'm gonna come a little different. So I ended up actually kind of designing my own stuff. So the pants, I got these off Amazon.
Yeah.
I'm not really into brands, but I was able to like wax the pants. I love like that wax look. So I waxed the denim, threw some docs on the feet, grabbed a tube bag for the waist, made this shirt myself.
What is
grabbed the leather hat. Oh, Uncommon Collectors. That's my thing, like uncommon.
Yeah.
Being uncommon, becoming uncommon, everything that you do.
Okay.
Leather hat, ring on the finger.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Can't forget the pointers.
Oh, that's pointers.
Mando.
Yeah.
That's good drip. It's good drip, man. Yeah, 10 out of 10 fellas, man.
For sure.
Yeah.
Hey, man, so I want to get right into it. We're going to get into the book. Before we get into the book, I want to touch on life before the book, right? So I want to take it all the way back to South Side of Chicago. I want to take it all the way back to Pensacola. I want to take it back to Duval. You know what I mean? So can each of y'all touch on, your upbringings? What are some of the things that helped shape you all, when you're at your adolescence, and then ultimately what kind of shaped who you are from a young age to present day? So in any order.
I mean, I'll start first since you shouted out my city first, man. But Chicago kid, Southside kid through and through, born and raised, inner city kid, not the outskirts, not the suburbs, inner city kid, right off Halsted. But as far as my upbringing, man, I feel like really the city helped to shape me into the man that I am today. And really just like having that grittiness I guess you get from growing up in the inner city similar to New York, the grittiness, the toughness, the resilience, and also the discipline. Like even before the military, which I'm sure we'll touch on, before I joined the military, I was already somewhat disciplined because you can see like when you're in city environments, you can see the people that's undisciplined, how they living. Yeah. And you can see the people that's disciplined, how they living. You could just step outside. So I knew I didn't want to be like those individuals. So I need to mirror, the other individuals, and they were very disciplined. So I would say that was some of my biggest attributes from growing up in the city. Just like the grit, the resilience, the mental toughness, all of that type of stuff.
For sure.
The discipline.
And for me, I would say growing up in Pensacola, Florida, I mean, it was great. A lot of people, especially my South Florida people, you know what I mean? Like they try to talk about Pensacola, like say we Alabama and everything like that. We right there on the state line, but the Panhandle, man, I love it. Grew up, twin brother, older brother. Both my parents in the household. My pops was early on in my life was in the military, and that really is what gained a lot of discipline in myself as well. Like pops used to come wake us up like 6, 7 in the morning on a Saturday just because like you're just not allowed to sleep. Like even if you just wake up and just sit there, like you're just not allowed to sleep. So that I naturally became a morning person, and chores outside, having to do all that type stuff. I mean stuff that you can think of having with a military dad that kind of grew up hard. You know what I mean? He kind of instilled that in us. So even now today it's kind of like I don't mind really doing the hard things. So I mean that's how that was. But I mean it was great. I love Pensacola. Got a business in Pensacola. Always go back. Maybe I'll live there one day. Who knows? But
yeah, I mean, similar for me. Grew up both parents in the household. Dad, career military dude, 32 years in the Air Force. So similar to Jamari, that's where a lot of that discipline and structure and work ethic came from. And his dad grew up, on a farm in a small country town in Florida. So, all he knew was hard work. So it's getting up, crack of dawn before the sun was up. Working until the sun went down. So that's where I got a lot of my values from. And then, growing up in Jacksonville, it's so big. You meet so many different people from all over, different walks of life. So I really had like a well-rounded, diverse experience as a kid, which kind of played into like how I operate now. Like, I'm always comfortable in different situations, like, networking and talking with different people, no matter, who they are, where they're from, just because that's kind of how I grew up. That's kind of how my environment was. So I'm thankful for that, having a lot of those diverse experiences as a kid, because it really prepared me for how the real world is. So, proud graduate, Stanton College Prep 2014, and went straight to FAMU. And, those two worlds were different in and of itself, like coming from Stanton, which is, majority white, Asian kids, and then going to HBCU. But like I said, I grew up on the south side of Jacksonville, around, most of my friends who were Black, but then, went to the north side of town for school. So I had like two different experiences at the same time, which helped me when I got to FAMU, because it's not like it was a culture shock going from like a majority white school to, HBCU. So man, I loved it. Like my childhood, college experience, it was all great. So I feel like those experiences really shaped me and prepared me for the real world after.
For sure. How would you say, sticking on both those fronts, you mentioned like your experiences in Jax and then ultimately FAMU, how would you say the difference of experiences being from, when you're growing up in Jax, then you go to FAMU, and then now, you're in Charlotte. How did those experiences when you were younger from, high school, then you evolved to college at FAMU, how did those help shape your identity to where you're at now, present day?
Man, it just gave me a lot of perspective. Like when I got to FAMU, I had, several friends who maybe went to their neighborhood schools, like from elementary up through high school into college. And so all they knew was, going to school with people that looked like them, act like them, did the same things as them. So it was very comfortable for them. And then when they got into the real world, it's a shock, because the real world is not necessarily like that. You get into corporate America and you're around mostly people that don't look like you and act like you and know about things that you know about, so it can be uncomfortable and a struggle for them to adjust. But for me, I kind of had those like diverse experiences as a kid through high school, going to college, you know, meeting people from Florida, LA, New York, foreign countries and stuff like that. So it wasn't really like as much of an adjustment that I had to make as far as like, you know, relationships with people and, you know, doing business and stuff like that, because I could adapt to pretty much whatever room I was in. So that's why I said like those experiences really prepared me for I guess, you know, the professional world and the business world after college.
Got you. And so going back to both you, Malik and Jamari, y'all spent 7+ years in the Air Force, right? And ultimately that's how you guys met towards the end of your tenure in the Air Force. How did, you know, those 7+ years kind of influence who you guys were as individuals? I know you both mentioned structure and discipline already, but how did the military help, you know, fine tune those different categories for both of y'all?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, my military journey is a little bit different than Malik's. Like when he explains, after I graduated basic training, first like I had to move all the way to St. Louis, so that was already, you know, miles and miles away from the crib. You know, went out there, you know, by myself. But within a year after doing that, they shipped me off to Korea. So that's thousands of miles away, and over there, if you're in the military, you know that's a short tour. So you out there by yourself, nobody out there. Like, I mean, you're not even in the crib. You like in a little dorm type room, twin size bed. Like, it just put you in there. You barely got sheets in there. So you go in there, and it's more so it forced me, and I spoke about it in the book.
Yeah, for sure.
It really forced me to grow and have conversations with myself with what I really wanted to do. Because my first year in the military was filled with, you know, I was going out, having fun, having a good time. First time you really got freedom. I mean, you got a little bit of bread, you know what I mean? Like, you don't really got like no curfew or class to go to, quote unquote. Like if I went to college, you know, you got to work, but you get that, boom, then it's really your time. So, man, it's going crazy in St. Louis, I'm not gonna lie. But then boom, went to Korea, out there by myself, different time zone. So that's when I really, you know, begin to get like growth oriented even more, and like, you know, focusing on entrepreneurship, different things, mindset and stuff like that. And that shaped me. And then at the same time, I'm still doing the military thing. So with that, there comes growth. Like you get put in certain positions like within your job. And, you know, as you go up in ranks, you have to supervise other people. And right after Korea, I went to Germany. So still overseas. I spent 4 of my military years overseas. So doing that, I would say, it helped you see different perspectives too. Because out there living on the economy, you live on the economy like literally with the Germans. Like, and that changes perspective to how other people live and different things that they do. So it gets you insightful, especially when you see things going on in America, that you see what's going on. So really all that just come tenfold to, you know, when I come back to things that I want to do. So I would say definitely still that growth and that discipline point of view of it. But really I would say from like finding myself type something is really what it allowed me to do.
Gotcha.
I would say for me, the military was really the first environment where I seen myself as a leader. In basic training, or we call it BMT for short, I was put in a leadership position. And up until then, I mean, I always kind of, you know, like you would hear your parents say, hey, you're a leader, you know, but I never actually internalized that. And I started to really actually see myself as a leader when I was put in that position. And you're overseeing a flight of young men, various ages, of different ethnicities. And you're like, you got to be on point because they're following, you know, they're mimicking you. So that was the big thing for me. It allowed me to see myself as a leader. And from that point on, I started to really act like a leader. And I started to move intentionally as a leader. And like Jamari said, as you go up in rank, you know, you're put in certain leadership positions where you're overseeing people. You know, I was put in positions where I'm managing people that's twice my age, you know, people that's been, you know, they're 50 plus, and I'm telling them, you know, how things need to be done and, you know, what we need and, you know, put this here and things like that. So it kind of just puts you in a different headspace, and really the environment almost holds you accountable. Like you have that extrinsic accountability. You got the intrinsic accountability, but it's like extrinsically. So you want to do better because you have these people that's looking to you as guidance.
Yeah.
Even though you may just be 21 or 22, you know, so it makes you want to do more and become more. And from that, you know, when you have people kind of looking at you for guidance, you want to, learn more. Start getting into books and podcasts and develop yourself so you could be a more effective leader for yourself and for them. And that's really the biggest thing for me and how it changed the game.
It's crazy. Y'all basically kind of like saying the same thing in terms of like, being put in a position where like you're of higher ranking, or you have people that you have to be accountable for, and then you have to push yourself to like be accountable for yourself, right? And I remember you wrote that in the book. When I read that, that was a really good chapter, and that was something that, I wish I brought my book with me, but I reflected right after that chapter because
Pages, that's good.
I reflected right after the chapter because got reflection,
Yeah.
Got the reflection pages in the book.
So I reflected right after that because that's something I still feel like I go through to this day. Like, we be grinding so hard, right? And then we're doing so well at work, but then when we get home, it's like we could grind even harder, but then we just sit back a little bit.
Mhm.
Like, I'm big on being consistent. I go to the gym, I go to church, I'm in my praise. I'm working as hard as I can as an entrepreneur. I'm a freelance creative. I style, I do this, I do that. But when I'm done with all that, there's times where I could really be grinding. There's times where I could really just take the time, send more emails out, do some more homework on the next brand or the next project that I'm working on, or reach out to the next person just to, get 2 more steps ahead, but then I don't do it. You know what I'm saying? And I love that chapter because it's talking about how you could be working hard, but then you could always work harder.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate hearing y'all perspective because, being in the military, which is a perspective I never really saw when it came to like military, Air Force, the Marines, like, growing up as a, Haitian kid, nobody really talked about,
Military.
yeah, nobody talked about that.
Sock passe.
Yeah, nobody really talked about that. You know what I'm saying? So, to understand that the military helped put y'all in perspectives like that, that's stuff that's really like good to know. You know what I'm saying? So I commend y'all boys for it.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah, absolutely.
So before we get into the book, I want to talk about, this whole section that I want to talk about next is building with intention, right? And so right before we get into the book, I want to talk about Hive. So the hub for innovation, venture, and empowerment. Can y'all touch on that a little bit? I just want the audience to know like what Hive is, what y'all started, what y'all created, and what y'all are doing with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Hive initially started as an idea, between myself and Jamari, just to create a space for other like-minded individuals, whether they be corporate professionals, entrepreneurs, or creatives,
Yeah.
Artists and things like that, to come together in a safe space and collaborate on their shared ideas, because Charlotte is a place where you have a lot of people with different talent, interests, and perspectives, but it can be so spread out and segregated. You have a lot of transplants there, meaning like they're not from Charlotte, they're moving to Charlotte, to find opportunities. And sometimes it can be hard to find those opportunities if you don't know the right people or know the right places to go. So between the 2 of us and then the other 3 that we brought on board, that's 5 different networks that we're able to utilize, in terms of bringing people together, connecting resources, sharing resources, and collaborating on, on different ideas, whether those be business ventures, career transitions, or, even artist collabs. So we really just wanted to create a space where people could come together and find their community and, build things with intention, knowing that they have this space that they can come to these different, specially curated events. It's not like your typical, just dry, very plain networking events. Like, each event that we throw has a specific theme and things that we intentionally design to kind of foster and, create these like unique connections. And so that's what the idea was. And we've been doing that, pretty efficiently since January. And it's really blossomed into something amazing. We've had people come to us and be like, if I didn't come to this event, I would have never met this person that I'm now doing this joint business venture with. Or we just had 2 people that performed as artists at our February event that are now in the studio together making a record. So it's just crazy to see those type of things like, actually blossom in fruition into what they are. So the Hive in a nutshell is just, like you said, it's a hub where people, innovators, with different ventures, feel empowered, to share their ideas and build together.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting, the concept, because one of the biggest pieces of advice that I got was, you know, you can always network with people who, you know, are elders, right? Like that's had, you know, 20, 30 plus years in whatever industry, the game, if possible. But then that same person told me, but it's also important to be collaborating with your peers and those who might be just a little bit older than you, because at the end of the day, those are going to be people who are going to take over that business. Those are the people who are going to be in those leadership roles and what have you. So the fact that y'all are curating this space for young professionals, like, we're going to be the ones eventually in that space, and it's always good to be able to, you know, network now, instead of like, you know, just people who are, you know, older and might end up being pushed out the door wherever they're at. So
1,000%. I, to your point, like that's why I think like anytime literally goes to doing things with intention. You know what I mean? Even when you're talking to people, whatever you do, you never know the position somebody may end up being in, or how y'all can connect and collaborate in the future and everything like that. Like, I mean, even with y'all, like, you know, going back to FAMU days and whatnot, you know what I mean? Like, John being like y'all pro, like, you feel me? Like, who would have thought that this would have happened? You feel me? Like, back then, y'all, Neos, like, didn't even know that y'all would probably be doing a podcast together, different things like that. Y'all keep the conversation. If he, like, you know, treated y'all a certain way, it came at it where it's like, this setting would have never happened. Yeah. So it's like, you do that, and I think back to myself or other people I met, like, you know, or even Neos that I have, like, what they may end up doing in the future, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's just come tenfold. So
yeah, and just to stay on this real quick is that, you know, somebody so in the book, in which we're about to get into, I tried to read it without taking a guess as to who wrote what section.
Who wrote what? Yeah.
But then I was able to start to piece it together. Like, okay, this is Jamari, this is Malik, this is what's the young lady's name? Tiffany. I was like, okay, that has
the military ones kind of give it away sometimes. But
and then I can figure out, you know, which was you. But whoever wrote the piece or the section in the book that talked about, you know, being able to just showcase, you know, what they're doing in their personal lives on y'all's personal platforms, right? That's a big thing. That's helpful, because whether it's, you know, financial literacy, whether it's investing, whether it's y'all's marathons or running, you know, I'd be lying if I said I didn't look at some of the stuff that you've done, John, lately with, like, you know, the running, the fitness. I'm like, that motivates me, right? We have a line brother who's running like 4 or 5 minute miles right now, like crazy. Zach, right? Like, if he's like, so crazy, no, he's ridiculous. Like, he's slender man now, bro. So the reason I point that out, because that's important, that's impactful, regardless of how you slice it or not. You don't have to have 1 million followers. You don't have to have, you know, whatever sponsorships, right? Like, if you're genuine about being intentional with what it is that you're posting, what it is that you're creating, and what it is that you want to be put out there, people will follow, people will clamor to it. And I can say that I've done that, you know, with you, and that's helped me. So, you know, that was a great point that was in the book. So to your point, that's just kind of how, like, the flow works of it.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the book, right? We've been talking about getting into the book, but let's talk about the book, right? Live on Purpose. Real simple question, anybody could go. What made y'all want to write the book?
I'm gonna let Jay Wall get that, because Jay Wall was really he was the mastermind behind it. He was the one that came to us, and he had the idea to bring us together to collaborate on the book. So,
yeah, I mean, it's funny now that I'm thinking about it, because, like, similar to how we approach the Hive is, like, similar to how we approach this book, Live on Purpose. So we were all at a men's conference last year in Chicago called the Waymaker Conference, hosted by Lewis Carr. And we all went as a group of like 11, 12 brothers, which is crazy to say in itself. You know, you can imagine trying to get 12 people from different places together in one space to go on a trip. And so we came together and we went to this conference. And after the conference, I was really inspired because I felt like, you know, throughout the weekend, I was getting to know these different people. Mind you, I didn't know all the people who we went to the conference with before we went. I got to know a lot of them there. And so just getting to know them, their backgrounds, their different perspectives, and we're all kind of around like the same little age bracket. I'm like, man, I feel like we're all at this stage now where we're kind of getting into our careers, you know, some people with families in business doing different things. I feel like we have a lot of value and unique perspective that we could offer to maybe like the younger generation that's coming up, you know, after us. And so I approached Jamari and Malik and Kyle and Tiff with this idea for the 5 of us to come together and basically write about our transitional period between like the ages of like 16 going into young adulthood, going into our careers and navigating that whole like 10-year period between like 16 and 26 years old, which, as you guys know, is a very like chaotic period for a lot of people because you're going through so many life changes and things like that. And that can be difficult to navigate on your own. And so I felt like we could at least talk about our experiences, what we went through. And like you said, you might not go into it with the idea of like, okay, I'm gonna reach 1 million people with this, but you know, there's probably somebody somewhere that can read that story that you wrote and relate to it and say, man, I'm going through something similar. Or I've been through something just like that. And I had no idea somebody else had gone through that before me. And hopefully they can take something from that and apply it to their life. So that was really like the motivation and the inspiration behind it. Just kind of letting it serve as like a mentor in your pocket, so to speak, of like, okay, somebody that's not like, this is not my mom or my teacher or my professor telling me this. This is somebody that's fairly close in age that recently went through this, that's sharing their experience and how they navigated it. Now, maybe I can sit down, reflect, and take something from it and try to figure out how I want to navigate this situation. So that was really the inspiration behind it. So I approached them with the idea and they were on board. And I mean, you see, that's living proof right there.
Yeah.
So that was just the motivation behind it.
That's real.
Yeah, I think, and the unique thing about this book is that it's 5 different authors.
Yeah.
And it's not a hard read. Like you see the book, it's a little thin. Like, you know what I'm saying? You grab it, everybody don't want to keep reading.
Yeah.
You know, and everything like that. It's a process getting into reading. So the book is, I forget how many pages, less than 100.
It's like 120.
Yeah, like 120, like, but then we got reflection pages and stuff like that. So if you just really key in, and then you don't have to read it in order if you don't want to. The book has different authors who all spoke on different aspects and points of their life. So you can just be feeling, man, like, you know, I'm messing up with the finances. I keep, you know, going to Starbucks every morning, spending like $20.
Right.
Man, let me get right. Boom. You can read that just to kind of hone in on it, you know, reflecting different things like that. And then all of us come from different walks of life. You know what I mean? Like we got Team John, got a whole master's degree. You know what I mean? We writing the book. I'm like, man, like, you know, we're still peers in life. I don't even have a bachelor's degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's different people. Some people went to college, went to the military. Oh, entrepreneurs. Oh, I just want to go to corporate ladder. I want to do 20 years in the military. So it's like, that's why we say, you know, live on purpose. Like, as long as you be intentional about what you want to do, it really don't matter what you do. Like, if you intentional, like, you gon' succeed, like, regardless. So yeah.
Yeah. I could imagine most times, right? And obviously I'm no author. I'm gonna say yet, right?
There you go.
my story is not finished, you know, God willing. You know, I could imagine most times that when it comes to like sharing personal things that y'all go through, you know, and putting it on paper to have other people read it, it's pretty vulnerable, right? And it could probably be scary, or you might not know how to word it because you don't want like people to basically read it wrong or get the wrong interpretation about it, right? And I guess that's a question I want to pose to y'all. Like, I'll start with you, Malik. Was there like any point where you were writing your pieces in the book and you were like, damn, like, I might be too vulnerable here? Or how do you like balance that line between vulnerability, telling the truth, and then having an honest conversation?
Yeah. I'm an open book, man. And it really, you know, vulnerability is a strength.
Yeah.
You know, a lot like society over the years has painted vulnerability to be a weakness. But once you really, you know, get into like leadership within self, you understand that the more vulnerable you are, the more willing people are to listen to you and follow you. So for me, I'm always willing to be as vulnerable as I can in that moment, because I know my vulnerability may, you know, help somebody to get off of that ledge. It may be somebody that's about to, you know, take a step off of the ledge, and me being vulnerable and sharing my stories of the mishaps that I've had in my life can, you know, like I said, help change their narrative, you know, change their perspective. And for me, when I was writing the chapters within the book, I was really writing to my little brothers. You know, I was writing it to give them a mentor in a pocket-sized book, you know, and I was willing to be as vulnerable as I could for them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they can come to me for whatever. I'm gonna give them the real. You know, I'm not gonna sugarcoat. And they know. You know, I tell you my deepest, darkest secret. You know what I'm saying? Like because I just understand, man. Like, we all go through things for a reason. It's like, and I get it. You know, a lot of the times people are scared to be vulnerable because they're fearful of how others will look at them or how they will be judged by others.
Yeah.
But life is not meant to be lived for other people. It's for
Right.
yourself. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it's not really that much of a struggle for me, just because I understand the importance behind it, and it also empowers me when I'm able just to be my authentic self and share my story and tell, like, look, man, I did that same dumb shit. These are the results that I got from it. You know what I'm saying? You have an opportunity to do something different, or you can do the same thing and see the results, that you get from it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how I approach it personally.
In preparation for this show, I tried to correlate, different milestones within the book to what we go by on the show, and growth, passion, childhood, right? So I felt that milestone 3 was a direct correlation of growth. So milestone 3 being mental resilience and perseverance. I kind of tied that in with growth, right? So you all touched on when you're younger, chasing women, and that was like a focal point.
Yeah.
Jamari, you talked about just being able to grow from, going from Pensacola to St. Louis to when you went into the military. John, you talked about finances, right? You talked about, you were disciplined, but it wasn't until like, your daughter came along where it's like, oh no, I really got to be disciplined here. You started talking about the 50-30-20 rule, right? So could y'all each share a piece of growth that when you were writing the book or your section in the book that you said, man, like this was a really big period where I grew and I've been consistent with this piece of growth since then?
Yeah. For me, it's a chapter changing the narrative. Man, like understanding that you have the ability, you have the power where you are currently in life to change your story if you choose for that to be so. You have that power to change your narrative. And I think a lot of times growing up, you think a lot of things in your life are fixed. You think your circumstances are fixed, and everything in life is temporary. Everything has its ebbs and flows. But you have that ability to change your narrative. And I know for me growing up in the city, you see a lot of stuff that's been going on for years, issues that's been going on for years. So you just kind of just feel like this is just the way it's supposed to be because that's the way it's always been. But you can change. You can change your community. You can change your environment. You can change your friends. You can change your mindset. You can influence change in other people. So for me, that was a really pivotal thing. And even still today, I'm always in the reflecting within myself, like, how can I become better? Like, how can I rewire my mindset to get to where I want to be tomorrow, become the man that I want to be tomorrow? Because the mindset that I have today helped me to get to where I am today.
Yeah.
But it may not be the mindset that I need to get me to where I need to be tomorrow, for my family, for myself and community and all those things. So just understanding that you have the power to change your story, So that's for me, that's what it is.
Sure.
That's right.
How about
I
you?
like that. For me, it's honestly and it's on brand with the inner child because they have a chapter in the book, Unleash Your Inner Hero.
Yep.
So it's the same thing that kind of, my philosophy with my brother Jamal, which is literally what we go by. I mean, we wrote a children's book based off of it, but it's real deal, real life. Unleashing your inner hero is almost the same thing like as inner child. You
100%.
feel me? Like going back to that. But I feel that everything that I do, whenever times get hard, times get rough, because that's just gonna happen in this life.
Mhm.
Tomorrow might be a bad day, but I'm not as scared of it because I know I have an inner hero. So I think that when you unleash that, you'll be good at whatever. Boom, went to the military, did that, unleashed my inner hero there, Airman of the Year, in multiple NCO awards, like great at my job, left that, boom. Entrepreneurship, like different businesses flourishing, boom, go through, corporate America, different things, my relationship with my girl, like all that type stuff. That doesn't mean that it never gets hard.
Right.
Honestly, this shit is probably more hard than easy. But it's when you know that deep inside of you have an inner hero, you can do whatever. So like that was the Unleash Your Inner Hero title was under the, navigating career and life decisions, because I've had a lot of different career and life decisions to make, because I became an entrepreneur, started Bam Snowballs while I was literally in the military.
Mhm.
And then since then have gone out to do a lot of different things. And it's not, like I said, it's more hard than easy, but when you know you got something inside of you, it's like, man, like, you know what I mean? Like you just make that light, eat that for breakfast, like, you know what I'm saying? And then take care of that problem. What's next?
Yeah.
Because, you know, as you go on and do different things, in which I noticed, because I mean, as I've gone and done certain things, people have, you know, approached me and, you know, maybe asked certain questions, or, you know, they might be starting a dessert business or doing different things, and they may come with a certain problem. And like I tell them, like, man, like that problem used to, you know, be running my mind for days as well. But now I might have had that problem this morning. Is you take care of it. Like, you don't really more so stop having problems. You literally just manage them better. And that's more so with going back to unleashing the inner hero. It's inside of everybody.
Yeah.
Like we always say, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, you know, you got Captain America, Steve Rogers, like they still regular people. They just unleash that. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got that. You just gotta dig deep.
It's the bar right there.
Yeah, no, that's real. For me, man, like you said, Josh, it was really when my daughter was born, when that light like switched on. I mean, it's one thing, like you said, like I was pretty disciplined with my finances, like from the time I kind of like graduated from college, because it's like, okay, now I'm graduating, like playtime is over, like I got to get stuff in order, like for my career and stuff like that. But you know, it's one thing when you're living for yourself, if you mess your money up, you know, and now you trying to get it back. But it's totally different now when somebody else is literally like dependent on you,
Yeah.
right? So when she was born, it's like, okay, like now I can't necessarily take the same risks that I was taking before. I can't necessarily make the same decisions that I was making before, financially and just in life in general. So specifically financially, is like, okay, like having a child is expensive in and of itself. You got medical bills, diapers, formula, all kind of stuff. So now you got to have extra income or just extra money set aside for that type of stuff. But what if she gets sick? What if she's in the hospital? What if I lose my job? You know? So now I'm thinking about all these what ifs and all these contingencies that I have to now plan for. Because like I said, now it's not just me. If I'm down bad, I can figure out a way to, you know, make some shit shake to where I can, you know, shake back pretty quickly. Like, you know, I can cut hair, I can do other things like that. But it's different when you have a child and now you're planning for their future, college. What if something happens to me to where now I'm not able to go to work and make money like I'm used to making? So it's just like all these things that I started to kind of like rationalize and start to put a plan together for. And it was because of her. And so that's why I feel like for me, like having my daughter was the biggest blessing in the world, because it not only helped me like grow for me, it helped me grow for her and for my family, like in generations on down the line. So that's when I really started like putting stuff in order and really like, you know, putting these things that I knew that I should be doing into actual action, like, and like living with intention. Because a lot of people know what they should be doing and know like, you know, okay, I shouldn't be spending all this money. I need to save. I need to start investing one day and doing all this stuff. But that's when it really clicked for me. So, you know, forever grateful for that. And, you know, to be able to have the ability to do those things. But that was the moment for me where I started realizing, you know, that some serious growth and changes needed to happen for sure.
I like that, man. So, you know, with this book, you know, what's some like core lessons that you want your readers to walk away with when it comes to like, you know, reading this project that y'all put together?
One thing that a core lesson that I like everybody to touch on, especially like when you think about the age demographic that he said, predominantly who this book is for, even though anybody can read it. You know, you might have somebody in high school, early college, like trying to figure it out, man, what am I doing? Graduating, you got internship. Oh man, should I do this? Should I do that? Which way? Especially with social media nowadays, you know, what they saying, like, I think I seen something like they had like a 21-year-old supposed to be making like $100K, like, taking care of everything and stuff. And it's like, come on, man, how realistic is that? But nowadays where social media is so prevalent, you got somebody looking at that thinking like, they not doing enough, and you like 22 years old. It's like, come on, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think one thing I want somebody to take away is that you don't have to have it all figured out. You know, we still figuring it out. We just spoke about that at dinner yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have it figured out. Like seeing, you know, what you want to do is just more so that intentional aspect of it. You might be going in one direction, being very intentional, and then, you know, it might flip and you might go in a different direction. That's fine. It's okay. You know what I mean? Like, they got a whole bunch of success stories where these people ain't starting until they was like 30, 40 years old. So you got to, you know, you got some years to, you know, mess it up and get it back. You know what I mean? So whatever you want to do, just do it with intention. You don't have to have it figured out. it's okay, man. Take your time, but just make sure that you're doing it with intention and, not just doing nothing at all just because it's a couple bad days. So
Me, my lesson would be okay with not knowing it all, like kind of what Jamari said, and be willing to build the confidence in things that you're unfamiliar with. So like even for me, I was very uncomfortable with reading. I didn't read my first book until the age of 24 from cover to cover. True story. I'm 29. So that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
And for the longest time in school, I didn't read because I didn't have the confidence to read. I never developed the skill to read. So I kind of just pushed it off, and my excuse was, all reading is lame, But once I had a mentor who kind of just, persuaded me to go into reading, and I was able to build that confidence in it. And I'm like, man, this is amazing. And that confidence was able to bleed into other things in life. You know what I'm saying? So just be willing to be uncomfortable, be willing to do something new, try things. Don't just go off what your homeboy is saying or what you're seeing on social media. If something is drawn to you, or maybe it was something that you were interested in as a kid, but now you've kind of rolled it off because that's not what everybody else is doing. Maybe you were into computers, but now nobody else, that's not the cool thing to do. So you kind of just wrote it off. And maybe, get into it and build that confidence, and that confidence will bleed into other areas in your life. You know what I'm saying? So that was my thing, is be willing to be uncomfortable and do things. You're not, I guess, which were once cool but aren't cool anymore.
For me, it was actually a chapter that I wrote about in the book. It's called "Don't Borrow from Tomorrow," and in the book, I was speaking more so from a financial perspective. Like, okay, like, don't make decisions today that are gonna, like, you're gonna have to literally pay for tomorrow. Talking about, like, credit card debt and stuff like that. But this applies to, like, life in general. Like, don't make a decision today in the moment that might seem right, feel good, whatever now, but that you're going to have to pay for later on down the line. Because I feel like when we're young, I mean, even people that are older too, like, they'll be caught up in the moment doing certain things that they know they probably shouldn't be doing, right? And it's going to cost them later on down the line. And so I think, that's part of living with intention, knowing that each decision that you make does have a consequence, whether good or bad. And so when you start to prioritize your life and live on purpose, and you have a goal and the way that you want your life to look, you have to make sure that literally each and every decision that you're making, whether big or small, aligns with that purpose. And so when I say don't borrow from tomorrow, I'm talking about finances, but it's definitely like a double entendre that you can apply to, like, every aspect of your life. So that would be the message that I hope someone, whether younger or older, is able to take away from this book.
Shoot, I'll share one lesson and message that I learned from the book. I want to say it's Tiffany. I could be wrong, so if I mess this up, but I believe it was said in the book about not listening to others in a sense of, what they're saying is good for you. And I think in this case, it was a relationship or a marriage.
Yeah, fit in that mold.
So
Yeah.
fitting. So okay. So shout out Tiffany for opening up to this. And again, I think this book is great because, like you said, Jamari, there's something for everybody in this. And it doesn't have to be something that you've already gone through, but this is something that you could be prepared for when you get to that point. So when Tiffany opened up about, listening to others of, fitting into a mold, or this is the perfect person for you. Like, yeah, it's good to get advice, but making sure that like, this is for me. This person is for me. This is who I believe is the best fit for me, not because others say, oh, like, this person has this person has that, and I'm confining to that person based off of, external things that are being shared with me. So I thought that was a valuable lesson because
100%.
I don't think that just goes for relationships. I think that goes for a lot. Career choices, finances, investments, what have you. That goes for a lot of stuff. So I took that as to what Tiffany said in the book. And it's more than just a relationship aspect. I took it for a multi-use of things. So that was something that really stood out and was impactful to me. So
shout out to Tiff. Let's speak to your point about getting vulnerable and stuff like that. I mean, she was very vulnerable. Let's speak about, relationships and stuff like that. For a lot, that's a touchy subject. So for her to open up, you can see how trusting she was to lay it all out to help somebody, gain from that. So very vulnerable.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Great book, man. Like I said, it's on Amazon. Live on Purpose. Make sure you get it. I already got my copy. I can't give you it because I wrote in it already. So y'all make sure y'all get that, man. But definitely, I want to get into the entrepreneurship that you all partake in, right? Aside from the Hive, aside from the book, you all have your own intricate businesses, right?
Yep.
Bam Snowballs. You got the haircutting business. You've been cutting hair for a while. I never
Clean Cut Studios.
Clean Cut
Studios. We gonna shout it out, man.
I never got a haircut from it.
Never had a clean cut.
I never got a haircut from it, man. It's because I cut my own hair. You know what I'm saying? I've been cutting my own hair for a long
La
time.
Fortune
man.
Studios.
No, that's good.
Yeah, so cut. Push come to shove. I know I'm cutting hair for sure, man. But nah, for sure. Like I just wanted to obviously highlight, obviously what y'all do, right? Give y'all opportunity to talk about, your respective businesses and how that came about and what's the mission behind, y'all work and what do y'all want it to look like, not only while y'all live, but when y'all leave it behind you. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about Bam Snowballs. You run it with your brother.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk to me about that, the intent behind creating, a business like that.
Yeah, so Bam Snowballs. If y'all watching, y'all go follow it on Instagram. Bam Snowballs, no W in snow. BAMSNOBALLS. It's a dessert shop, frozen dessert shop. When I say desserts, everybody usually thinks I'm talking about like sweets and cakes and stuff like that. But these are snowballs, real New Orleans style snowballs. So not none of that chunky, ice and all that. Real fine, fluffy ice, syrups, everything imported straight from New Orleans. But to talk about the actual business aspect of it, it's actually my brother went to fam. He actually worked there. Y'all probably know Snowball and
Yeah.
my brother worked there.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
J-Mo, he owned it. And J-Mo came sort of, you could say, kind of mentor to my brother, like while he was working there and stuff like that. My brother always had the idea of wanting to have a snowball shop, and do something. He was into production, photography, videography and stuff, but wanted something else, like, real tangible. So when he was graduating, like, man, a couple job offers, whatever, but like, man, that's not really what I want to do. Let's do this. We think, go back to the city, Pensacola. There's nothing like that out there. My pops and stuff is from New Orleans, so I have my family in New Orleans. We grew up going there, and we really grew up on snowballs, eating them and stuff. So he's like, man, that's perfect. He approached me with the idea. Boom, let's do it. And boom, we started out brick and mortar in Pensacola. And now today, we've branched to a mobile unit, and we in Charlotte as well. Got a mobile unit in Charlotte. So we operating in multiple cities, multiple locations, reaching a lot of people. So what started as just bringing snowballs to the city, expanding into so much more. Like, we got brick and mortar there, but our place of business is literally a hub for the inner city kids to come there, kick it, like, come in there after school. Like, sometimes it's a walkable area, so sometimes they got people walking, we see them outside, man, come get you some free snowballs. Like, just coming from school or something like that. Like, man, come in here. Like, they come in, man, like, when they start saying like you work here, like, is this yours? Like, we like, yeah, like, and it's just like, take them for a crazy loop, like, especially when we started, we was like, I think like 22 years old. Like, so to be a black 22-year-old entrepreneur with a brick and mortar location was pretty crazy. Like, you know what I mean? So it become a hub. Like, our biggest thing is community, man. Snowballs, okay, like, Snowball's gonna be there. You can go somewhere else. You can go to New Orleans. You can go somewhere else and get a snowball. Maybe not quite like Bam Snowballs, but you can get a snowball. But that feeling, that community feeling aspect of it, man, we always are doing community give back to the youth. Like, we give out scholarships, like everything, because we think about, ourselves growing up, like what we would have wanted to see and stuff. I didn't see any young black entrepreneurs growing up, But now, like, they got these kids seeing that. They like, man, like, people comment on our Instagram sometime, like, oh, like, we may post a video of ourselves, like, oh, I met him in person the other day, like, it was so cool. And we like, that's crazy. That's like a comment somebody would say, like, because we still not even really thinking about it on that way. But man, I would say the Bam Snowballs journey has been amazing, man. Going on 5 years in business, man. To be in black business already, like, is a black owned business, does not last that long, in most cases, especially like trying to do it how we're doing it. So to make it this long has been a blessing. We got a lot of crazy cool things coming down the pipeline in Charlotte and stuff like that too. And, potential possible expansions to other areas. So, man, shout out to my brother, great business partner. And, we doing some great things, but that's what Bam Snowballs is, and real deal exotics, man. We stuff them with cheesecake, throw brownies on top. We might throw a whole cheesecake slice on the top of that thing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you know, keep it cool, keep it
Fire
fun.
cheat meal right there,
So
boy.
that's a cheat meal. Yeah. I try. I'm trying to get right, so I haven't had a snowball in about a month. With some
Oh, yeah?
things, but you know, it's hard working it and not eating indulging sometimes. John, he's a frequent customer. You know what I mean?
between me and Ryan,
him and Ryan
every week.
tearing the snowballs up. So yeah, no, I appreciate you asking about that. But
Yeah.
but it's been great, man. As far as future plans, like, I mean, of course, I don't see myself being like the snowball man. I'm more so businessman.
Yeah.
So whatever happens in the future as far as franchising, I mean, even if the company sells one day or something like that, I would like just the mission to always stay the same, you know, and push positivity and push community to youth. And hopefully, if you have a story in the future of like, you know, one of our employees, we employ all like, you know, college students and young people as well, like, you know, so I just imagine like a Jamal type story, like pushing out like one of our employees or somebody who freaking comes to the shop, like go, you know, open a snowball shop, like because they seen us type deal. I feel like that'd be a full circle type moment. But yeah, that's a little bit about Bam, man.
What about you, John, with Clean Cut Studios and Clean Clothes? And we'll get to you next with changing the narrative.
Mhm.
Yeah, man. For me, it started back when I started cutting my own hair like you in high school, but I didn't really see it as like a business opportunity until I got to fam. Really, when I moved into Sampson Hall my freshman year, like most other kids that were in the dorms, you know, we were all new to Tallahassee, didn't really know anybody in Tallahassee, so you can imagine, and it was an all boys dorm too. So nobody had a barber, basically. So I'm like, okay, well, I know how to cut hair a little bit. I wasn't like great at it or anything. So it was my first and second roommate, Dalvin and Ryan, who were like my first clients. And they let me practice on their hair, of course, messed them up a couple of times. But shout out to them boys, man. They really stuck with me and allowed me to like hone in on my craft and my skills. And so till I got to the point, maybe like the second semester, my freshman year, is when I started doing like $10 cuts, $5 lineups in the dorm. So, you know, we all broke college kids back then, so that sounded great. So
What them cuts is now, man.
man, it's gonna cost you a little something now.
Waxing.
But man, it took off, man. It really did. I was so blessed to have that, literally like a gold mine in a sense, like right, like in my own like apartment building, so to say, my own dorm. And man, and the rest is history. It was like, you know, the word just spread. You cut one person, they like it, they tell somebody else. Eventually I became like, you know, the campus barber, so to speak. So I was cutting hair all throughout fam. I never worked like a job while I was in college because I had that, you know, to kind of carry me over. So yeah, man, it was the best thing I could have done. And, you know, obviously I had other aspirations outside of just cutting hair. I never really wanted to cut hair full time. Just because, I mean, like I said, I had so many other things that I wanted to do, but it's just always something, it's a skill that I have that I can use to make supplemental income whenever I need to. And I still cut hair still to this day. In Charlotte, you know, I have my day job that I work. After work, I'm cutting like 1 or 2 heads a day. You know, so it was probably the best decision I could have made was to put myself out there and start cutting hair in college. And as for Clean Clothes, you know, that started as more of like a passion project. You know, being around these guys has really shown me like the importance of not necessarily just doing things to make money, but doing things to have an impact, especially on the community. And so I started Clean Clothes with the idea of like, okay, like I can sell clothes, but I can also use the proceeds to like give clothes to people who can't buy clothes. And so it just made sense. So like with every piece of clothing that's purchased from the website, cleanclothescompany.org, you know, we donate a piece of clothing to the homeless. And, you know, I do more than that too. It's not always like, oh, whenever somebody just buys a piece of clothing, that's all I'm giving out. Like sometimes I'll go to Goodwill and just do a Goodwill haul and, you know, do a donation drive in the city. So that's more of like a passion project. It's a nonprofit, but we do have an online storefront as well where people can go and donate or like actually buy apparel. But yeah, like lately everything has had to have like some sort of impact attached to it. So you know, shout out to these guys for really, you know, having that type of impression on me because I definitely see the value on it. And that just makes it so much more fulfilling too. Like, you can make as much money as you want to, but if you're not leaving an impact on people, you can't say you've reached out and touched somebody, helped somebody, like lifted somebody up. Like that's not really, at least for me personally, that's not respectable in my opinion. Like, you know, you could be the richest man in the world, but if you're not a good person or leaving an impact on people, a positive impact on people, then what are you really doing it for? So, yeah.
Perfect segue.
That's actually crazy because John, I didn't even know that. When I met John, clean clothes was already a thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know that, that we inspired that.
For sure.
That's insane. But touching on changing the narrative. So Changing the Narrative is actually a nonprofit organization, which was started by myself, Jamari, and my brother, Mr. Akinani. Got to speak my brother's name, Kyle Fairweather, just to give my brother some light. But we started this organization in the military, and it really came from it's a funny story. So Jamari had got an investment property, and we went to go view the property, and we put up on the block, and I mean, like, it was in a distressed area, and the house was nice, but the area was kind of distressed. And it's like, I always kind of over exaggerate the story. I was like, it was homeless people on the other side of the street, like warming their hands up in trash cans. But it was crazy, man. I'm like, what the hell? And we go and we do the tour of the property. And I told Jamar, I was like, it just didn't sit right in my spirit, man, that he was investing in this community and not giving back to the community. And I'm like, look, man, we need to do a cleanup. And that kind of fell on deaf ears. Take me back over there, same situation. It's like, it's homeless people. And I'm like, nah, bro, like, this ain't right, bro. Like, we need to organize a community cleanup. And we ended up pitching that idea to the city where we were, which shout out the city of North Las Vegas. And the community director there pretty much got on board, and we were able to throw like a really big community event, whereas we not only cleaned up that block that the investment property was on, but we cleaned up a mile radius of that area, and we organized.
In the park.
In the park, absolutely. We ended up organizing over 50 volunteers. We partnered with the city, and we threw like a really big block party where during the morning half, we cleaned up the streets, collect bulk trash, etc. And then the afternoon, we did a block party. So like games, free food, community resources, just bringing like much needed love back into the community. And then it was actually from the tutelage of that community director. He was like, you guys have something special. You should start a nonprofit organization. So that's what we actually formalized. But what is changing the narrative, man? Changing the narrative is something that I'm extremely passionate about, because I'm extremely passionate about community. But Changing the Narrative is an organization that's geared towards exposing, educating, and empowering youth to become the best version of themselves they can be. And we do that through multiple different channels. One of the biggest things that we do is we help to develop growth mindsets within the youth that we serve, because we believe that the mindset lays at the foundation of everything that you do. You all can all speak to the testament of having a growth mindset. We wouldn't be in the positions that we are in today if we didn't. So we help kids that look like us, really, to develop the mindset that they need in order to create the outcomes that they want in life. So we were able to put together an interactive curriculum, which is called Mindset Matters. We packaged that curriculum, and we essentially took it to the schools. And it's my wife calling. But we took it to the schools, and we were able to go into the schools during the school day and actually teach our curriculum. And we're not the traditional teachers, but we actually had a class during the school day, and really just getting to know, build trust with the kids, and help them to rewire how they view themselves. And our hope is once they change their view of themselves, it would change their view of the world around them. And it's especially dealing with our young brothers, it's much harder for them to harm somebody else when they have more self-respect for themselves. You know what I'm saying? So we help to change that and help to change the language. So they're not looking at themselves as YNs, but they're looking at themselves as young brothers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And giving them more self-respect for themselves and carry themselves a certain way. Because not only do they represent themselves, but they represent their families. They represent their last names. Right. They represent the communities that they come from. So we help to instill those type things within the youth that we serve. But we have a lot of different other initiatives that we do. Real Heroes Read. We have Mentorship Matters, where we match the kids with one-on-one mentors, and we take them through that leadership curriculum, and John's actually one of our mentors, one of the youth in Charlotte. But we teach them how to change tires. We teach them about growth mindset. Of course, we teach them about self-respect, self-discipline. We have a networking workshop where we teach them how to effectively network, because they have to understand that life is about relationships. Business is about relationships. So you have to be able to effectively network. When you shake somebody's hand, look them in their face.
Right.
Make eye contact. When you say your name, say your full name. My name is Malik Hassan. Be intentional when you say your name. So things like that. That's what we help to empower our kids.
That's real. That's real. Love that, man. So I'm seeing entrepreneurs. I'm seeing authors, right? Y'all are leaders, mentors,
Husband.
Shout out to the wife.
fathers, right? And most importantly, people. You know what I'm saying? Y'all juggle quite a bit.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. So obviously, I'm gonna start off with you, Jamari. How do you balance all of that and still be able to center yourself?
So I guess the word balance to me is not really a thing, quote unquote.
Okay.
Because I feel like when I do try to balance everything, that's kind of when shit start going all over the place. So I'm more so of just try to manage things. It may be I'm giving more time to something else at that moment, and then but just because in lieu of that, something else may fall off a bit. But that's why I'm big on building teams around me and have somebody who can, man, they know this is going on. I got this big project coming with this particular endeavor. Man, you may have to pick up the weight a little bit. And I mean, we're in business together. We have things together to where, honestly, both of us, all three of us, to where somebody may have to pick up the slack. So balance is extremely hard to do. And that's why I don't like to say that I do it. I would just say that I more so try my best to manage things. But that's also one of my weaknesses as well that we spoke about. I'm not the best at that word, balance. So that's why I like to say just manage different things. But it gets tough sometimes. But when you really know what you want to do, man, it don't matter. Like I got a pitch to do in literally in like 3 days, but I'm gonna be prepared for it because I have no choice but to be. Even though coming here like doing different things, like you could always quote unquote technically be doing something else. So it's more so about, man, you just gotta put your head down and grind more. And right now in the age that I'm in, it's just 1,000% grind mode, because it's like, man, when I get like 40, 50, if I'm doing literally what I'm doing right now on the day to day,
Unstoppable.
yeah, you feel me? So it's literally like no balance, but just managing, I guess I would say.
Can I piggyback, John?
Yeah,
I'm gonna
go ahead.
piggyback off what Jamari said, because he talks about no balance, and that's also something, a mantra that I also hold dear to myself. I don't believe in balance, because balance in the natural world doesn't exist. Nothing in life is balance. But you said manage. If I could give you another word, it would be flow. Harmony, finding the flow in life and the harmony in life. Like you said, like one thing you may have to prioritize something, and something else may be, you may be here, but next season it may be this, and you have to find like that harmony and juggling everything, and everything is on, has a flow to it, or a frequency to it. So, just finding that and finding the flow that works for you in the season that you're in, today, so that was it.
Yeah, I agree with that, Malik. I mean, people use the word balance, right? So if we're talking about balance, I would say that even in Jamari's case, he does have balance. And I think we as men, women, people in general have to reevaluate the way we look at that word, because a lot of times people use it and they think everything has to be equal. Like you have to balance your time equally between all of these different things, which is unrealistic in a sense. And that touches on Malik's point of like, things have to flow. Some seasons you're going to give more time to one aspect of your life than you will another. And so you have to give yourself grace in a sense, because when we tell ourselves, oh, we're not good at balancing, I don't have any balance, that's kind of like a negative connotation around that. And that can sometimes be harmful to yourself in the way that you look at yourself. But if you say, yeah, I am balancing, but I'm balancing in a different way. Balance looks different today than it does tomorrow or next week or next year or in 10 years, whatever. So yeah, we are balancing, but you're just doing different things with a different intensity at a different time. And that's okay. That's just the reality of life, especially when you're ambitious, young individuals, as we all are. And so, you really have to be mindful, I guess, of the way that you speak about certain things, especially as they relate to like yourself, because that's one thing that I struggle with as well, is the idea of balance and
Right.
like having so many different conflicting priorities and wanting to give all of them the time and attention that they deserve, right? Having a family, you know, career, personal aspirations, needing time to just rest, recharge, and reflect, you know, that can be a lot. So, you know, you just have to be very mindful and intentional about giving the attention to those things as it requires it. And so that comes down to like obviously like time management, prioritization, and things like that, which is an ongoing process. Like that looks different at different phases of life. So you know, I would say, you know, to you, Jamari, like you do have balance. It just looks different on different days. You know, so we all just have to give ourselves a little bit more grace and not, you know, be lazy or anything like that, but grace in the sense of like, you know, you're doing the best that you can with what you have going on at the moment. So
And
Yeah.
if I can piggyback
Go ahead.
again, just to go back to what Jamari was saying. He touched on having a team, which is so important because, or just having, you know, good, genuine people around you that can support you, because when he may not have the capacity to do certain things that we may need to get done right now, he can lean on us.
yeah,
And right now I can go full throttle, you know,
Mhm.
so hey, lean on me. I'll take that weight
Yeah.
until you can pick it back up, you know. And same thing like with the book, even with writing the book.
Yep.
Everybody had their own stuff going on, you know, but we had to lean on one another. Like, hey, you know, John not gonna be able to make the meeting, but if somebody can take notes for me, you know, I'll be able to look at the notes and I'll be able to whatever, or, you know, just communicating one another and leaning on one another, you know, because like I believe that life is not meant to be experienced alone. You know, we're social creatures, and it's meant for us to lean on one another, you know, but you have to find those right people that you can
Right.
lean on.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate y'all perspectives, because even for me, like thinking about ways to have balance or center myself, you know, everything y'all saying is very real, right? It's all accurate, but sometimes we forget it.
yeah,
You know, sometimes we forget it because we might be working so much and it's just like, man, I just want that day off, you know? Or you might have so many days off and it's just like, damn, no, I gotta go back to work,
yeah,
you know? And sometimes you beat yourself up for it because that whole idea of balance and wanting everything to be right here and thinking that the equilibrium is gonna bring you a sense of peace, but sometimes it's not gonna do that, right?
Yep.
Sometimes you need to be up here and the other thing has to be down there, you know. But for me, it's just I do want to ask, right? Because you put it like y'all said, all y'all responses were great, but you put it together, I think, in a very interesting way, right? I do want to ask, when did you start to develop that kind of mindset where you're just like, you know what, balance is gonna be like this. It's not gonna be like this.
yeah. This year,
This year,
literally
okay.
this year, we were all. It's funny, like this conversation is touching on a lot of things that we all talked about at dinner last night. So one of the things that I've been more, I guess, cognizant of, or just, you know, trying to implement more, is just the idea of like you said, things are going to look different at different stages, and that's okay. And I'm a huge proponent of therapy. I go to therapy myself, and that's helped me be able to think through different things in a different light, because all we know is all we know to a certain extent. Like the way we've been raised, the experiences that we have kind of shaped our perspective. And a lot of times it's not until we allow a new perspective to come in to where these like thoughts and perspectives start to change. And so one of the things that I've talked about, like with my therapist, who's amazing, is just being okay with things being out of balance. Like things don't always have to be so equal. You don't have to have, like, you don't have to give, you got 24 hours in a day. You don't have to give equal time to every single thing every single day, which comes down to, like I said, time management and prioritization. And so you have to give yourself that grace to say, okay, if today all I can give is 10 reps at the gym, that's all I can give, but I still went to the gym.
Still
I
went to the gym,
showed
yeah.
up. If all I can give my family is 2 hours of my free time today, that's all I can give. But I still made sure to spend time with them. If all I can dish out is 10 emails today, that's all I can give, right? But it's like, I think with us, I think especially as like Black men, we feel like if we're not going as hard as we want or as somebody else, then we're not doing enough. And like I said, those type of thoughts can be harmful. right? Those are the type of things that kind of like, you know, push us and drive us to the next level, which is good. But even that has to be in balance. Like you have to balance the drive and the work ethic and the ambition with the grace, humility, and like, you know, self-preservation. Because you can't just tell yourself all the time, I'm not going hard enough, I need to go harder, or I'm not doing enough, I need to do more. Because those thoughts you start to internalize, and those, you know, start to have an impact on the way you think about yourself as a person. So like I said, that's not to say like just take your foot off the gas and be lazy, but just give yourself grace and allow yourself the freedom, the flexibility, and the flow to be able to have days that look different. You don't have to go 1,000,000 miles an hour every single day, because that's the easy way to burn yourself out.
Yeah.
So you have to like find that balance, and it's an ongoing process. I don't think anybody ever finds that balance and just has everything figured out, because things change. You have problems that arise that look different on different days. So it's an ongoing, ever evolving like learning process. And I think as long as you're doing that, and as long as you're continuing to learn and grow, then you're doing all that anybody could ever ask of you. You know, as long as your intentions are pure. So that's how I think about it. And I didn't come to that realization, I guess, until literally this year.
Yeah. You know, I appreciate conversations like this, because I had a conversation recently with a friend, and you know, and it's not to call her out. I'm not calling you out if you ever watch this episode, but you know, the conversation was just that like men don't have deep conversations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like men don't have deep conversations, and I don't come from a place growing up or even now my present day life where I've ever seen men not be able to have real, authentic, and vulnerable conversations, right? And, you know, Malik, you said you was an open book, right? Mm-hmm. You've always been that way. What made you feel that confident to understand that, you know, I can be this person? I can speak like this, right? Like vulnerability is strength. I could talk about what I'm going through. I could talk about living on purpose. Like when did you start, you know, developing that kind of mindset?
I wasn't always like that growing up, because I cared a lot about the opinions of others, right? And like I was saying, like when you are so fixed on what other people think about you, you won't be willing to put yourself in a vulnerable space, because that's all you're gonna be thinking about. But I mean, honestly, just to excuse my French, I was just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
You know, bump what other people, you know, feel about me. I'm gonna be me. You know what I'm saying? If it's something on my heart that I feel as though I need to share, I'm gonna share. I don't care what you think about me. You know what I'm saying? You don't walk in my shoes. You know what I'm saying? You don't know my struggles, you know? So it was just kind of like just having that kind of bravado. And that really just came from, I had a very challenging experience in life to where I mean, I can share. I mean, you know, if you want me to get vulnerable, but at the time she was my girl. She's now my wife, but when we first got together, I cheated on her, right? And it was one of the worst mistakes that I made. And after that experience, I felt very embarrassed that I did that to her. Other people knew I did that to her because I was like Malik Hassan, you know, like I could do no wrong, right? But I made that mistake, and other people knew that I made this mistake, and I was focused on what they thought about me, what her mom thought about me, what her friends thought about me, and all that type of stuff. But I realized that I needed to develop myself to, one, for myself, but also to get her back into my life, because I knew that she was the person for me. You know, so I knew I had to undergo drastic change. And after that experience, to help other brothers not make the same mistake that I made, I'm gonna share my story. I'm gonna tell Jamari, man, I fucked up. This is what I did, bro. So you know, them and him, they can make the right decisions within their own personal relationships, and tell my little brothers, yo, I know from personal experience that being with all of the young women, yeah, on social media, that shit may seem cool. The rappers talking about this, but that shit's really not cool for real. You know what I'm saying? And when you want to be a quote unquote like high value person for yourself, man, you got to move a certain way. You got to think a certain way. If you say something, you got to stand on it. You know what I'm saying? You can't just be saying you a high value brother and you're not really standing on your own principles. You know, so when I started really getting into that bag, I'm like, man, what people think about me, I'm gonna share this shit. You know, because other brothers need to hear it. And you talk about those deep conversations. A lot of time other brothers don't have those deep conversations is because we so worried about what the other brothers gonna think about them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be wrong because I want to be the man. I want to be the masculine guy. I want to be the alpha guy, right? So I don't want to open up and tell you like, man, I'm really struggling mentally.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm struggling with losing weight right now. I'm struggling with managing my marriage right now. You know what I'm saying? Because we so focused on what other people think about us. But man, it's like, damn those days, man. We got to be able to open up as brothers and communicate and share with each other like, man, like we all are going through life shit and we're here together to help one another. And that's when we had dinner last night. That was the things that we were talking about. We were talking about, the conversation started with what's challenging us right now as people, as men, as fathers, as husbands, like what's challenging us. You know, and we started opening up that conversation and listening to one another and then just offering feedback, you know, as it was needed, you know. But you gotta be willing to create that space within yourself, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like once you create that space within yourself, you'll naturally just create it extrinsically, externally.
Right.
You know, so yeah.
That's real.
We got that T-5. I think you touched on a great point though, Malik, in a sense, that last part, especially, you know, y'all just being at dinner and sharing about these things that's going on in y'all's lives. I think, you know, it's important that, you know, all men have like a certain like, you know, friend group, or even it's just one person they can go and talk to about these things, be vulnerable, open up, and just figure out how things, you know, different parts of life are working at that time. But as we wrap here, I want each of you all to touch on like your inner child, right? If you could give the audience, you know, our viewers, our listeners, your audience, your viewers, your listeners, advice on how to embrace their inner child, what would that be? And we'll start with you, Jamari.
For me, I would say just to think about what made you happy as a kid. You know what I mean? Like literally what made you happy. I think back when I was a kid, running around, like, you know, playing with my twin brother, and my older brother outside, you know, just kind of do our thing. We was outside kids for sure, like go outside, just walk around, explore literally everywhere. And that's what I like. So sometimes most of the time it's in the morning when I'm just kind of, you know, in my thoughts thinking like, man, what I want to do, different things like that. Man, I just might go outside and walk around, you know, especially now, like in Charlotte, living in Uptown, like it's all type of new places and different things you can explore and whatnot. And when I do that, I truly do feel like a kid again. You know, I don't know where I'm going. When you're a kid, like you don't know what your day gonna look like. You might just be outside and you might see somebody from the neighborhood. Hey, I'm about to go to the store. You want to ride with me? Okay, like, you know, you hop in, then your day go through a whole bunch of different turns, and it's like, man, I didn't know I was gonna go, but it was a good day. And that's kind of the same thing that I do now. Sometimes I may do something unexpected or something random, and in the moment outside looking in, they may be like, man, this dude just going on a whole bunch of different side quests and stuff. But honestly, it's really like that's what makes me feel like a kid again. I embrace my inner child because it feels good. So
Sure.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think for me, what I would want, I guess, the audience to know or, you know, embrace is, you know, just think about the type of person that you needed or desired as a child and be that person. Like literally embody those qualities, those values, and be that person first for yourself, but then for others. So, you know, whether that's a mentor or, you know, whatever, just think about those things that really, you know, that you craved and valued, or maybe that you had and you appreciated as a child, and literally embody those traits and become that person. You know, that takes a lot of like reflection, inner work. Like we touched on therapy earlier. Like I'm a huge proponent of going to therapy and, you know, having somebody to talk to help you like peel back some of those layers of yourself and, you know, figure out, you know, the type of person you want to be, but really do that inner work and just become the best version of yourself. Like I said, first for yourself, but then for the people around you.
For sure.
That's right.
I would say for me, kind of touching back on what I said before, man, I love kids, and the thing that I love most about kids is they don't care about what other people think about them. Like, I'm sure like your daughter, John, like she could be anywhere. She's going to be herself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because she hasn't been conditioned by society to not be herself.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So my advice would be dare to be you, man. Dare to be you all the way. Dare to be authentic. And just be yourself and bump what other people think about you. And I feel like once you dare to be who you truly are, that's when you really tap into that child essence. You know, if that's building Legos, like my boy, You know, my boy, I visited him at the Lego plane. He like, what you think about the Lego plane? I'm like, I love it, dog. You know, whatever that is, like tap into that. Like, don't worry about what other people think. You know, just dare to be yourself. That's what we need more in the world.
Yeah. Real quick, what's next on the book tour? What's next for the book? What's next for the Hive? What's next? What's the next project?
Man, I don't know. We haven't nailed down the next location, but we still got to hit Vegas. We got to hit Chicago. We got to hit Miami.
Chicago.
Chicago.
I'm having a 25th birthday party. I'm 25th. Jeez, wow. Why did I say 25th? My birthday's on the 25th. That's what.
Yeah.
I'm turning 30.
All right, big
My
3-0.
30th B-Day will be in Chicago. I'm gonna do a juke jam at the rink. My Chicago folks know. My Southside folks know.
Okay.
But we're gonna organize.
We'll do it too. Yeah, that's it.
We're gonna have it organized to where we're gonna have the
Chicago
books
it is.
there. Whereas you can purchase and, you know, the authors will be there that way they can sign. Because, like, one thing I can say, like, our biggest supporters are our families, for sure.
Yeah.
Man.
You know, like, my mom was telling me a story of how my family, Irish heritage, how on St. Patrick's Day, everybody had a copy of the book and everybody was kind of toasting it up, you know, to us. And I wasn't there, and I thought that was pretty cool. So,
That's fire.
we'll probably do it in Chicago. So, yeah.
That's what's up, man. Well, fellas, man, appreciate y'all coming on the show.
Appreciate you having us, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
for
the
sure.
platform, bro.
Yeah, we was kind of figuring out how we was gonna be able to create an episode and have 3 different voices on top of our 2.
Yeah.
But we made it work, man. And I appreciate y'all stopping by, man. I know y'all got busy lives. We talked about it in an episode, so you know, to take time to share y'all story, share your book, this project, this, you know, this art, right? This help book. You know what I'm saying? Bringing this over to the InnerChild Podcast, man.
For sure. We got to send
Really
y'all
appreciate
copies
it.
before we leave, too, man.
Definitely.
I left my copy at the crib.
It's all good.
Man, I apologize.
You take one of these and just
Yeah, hell yeah.
mimic the highlights and the notes. Just redo it, bro.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
But thank y'all, fellas.
No, we thank you all.
And man,
For sure.
sure. And to our viewers out there, make sure y'all go and grab a copy. Live on Purpose, Mastering the Art of Living with Intention. You can get it on Amazon today. So make sure y'all do that for all our viewers out there.
Please do.
Again, I'm JB. That's OD. Make sure you guys check us out on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, @officialinnerchild. Again, until next time, don't forget to always embrace your inner child. Peace.
And live on purpose.
Live on purpose.